BBOR Black Box Online Radio, coming to you from West Virginia. BlackBoxNid88 on Instagram for the bonus podcast. And welcome to BBOR, the home of true crime talk radio and your premier destination for unsolved mysteries, criminal psychology, and exploring the dark side of cyberspace. My name is Ned DeHaan, and I am your host, as well as the creator of AstroPsych 400 here on YouTube, and regular contributor to the Zodiac Killer channel. And a great way to support these shows is just by listening to some more content. But you can also go over to Amazon.com and have a look at the book Killer on a White Horse, written by me, Ned DeHaan. It is a novel, murder mystery, inspired by the Zodiac Manson connection, but it is indeed fictional. However, who doesn't love a good mystery? And there is always the TeeSpring page. Feel free to check out some of the merchandise. And remember, being weird is not a crime. Let the show begin. Okay, hello everybody, and thank you for listening to this special bonus episode of Black Box Online Radio. If this is the first episode that you've clicked on from this channel, I do a regular segment every Wednesday about the Long Island serial killer, and there has been some breaking news in that case. The 911 calls that were made by a possible Long Island serial killer victim, Shannan Gilbert, have now been released to the public, and they are available online, including YouTube, and I'm going to be playing a portion of the calls in this episode, and then you can find the more extended ones available online if you would like. But after the call, I will be doing a discussion, and you can see the timestamps that are posted at the bottom here if you would like to jump straight ahead to the call or jump straight ahead to the discussion if you've already heard it. But the most basic introduction about the disappearance of Shannan Gilbert from CBS News is Shannan Gilbert was 23 years old. She was an online escort who went missing on May 1st of 2010 after visiting a client in a gated community in Oak Beach, Long Island. Michael Pack was her driver. The Suffolk County Police Department has ordered a release of the recording and transcript of Shannan Gilbert's 911 calls that she made before she vanished. And then Shannan Gilbert, sadly, was found dead in the vicinity of where she disappeared. Some people would say it's a substantial distance. Other people, such as the ones who participated in the press conference around the release of Shannan Gilbert's 911 calls, thought it was rather close, actually. But I'll play the call now, and then I will provide a discussion. Okay.
State police? Yeah, there's somebody after me. I'm sorry? There's somebody after me. Where are you? There's somebody after me. Okay, where are you? There's somebody after me. Where are you, ma'am? I don't know. You're driving right now? No, I'm inside the house. I'm sorry? I'm inside the house. What house? I don't know. Can you check where I am? I'm sorry? Can you check where I am? No, I can't. What's your callback number you're calling from? Huh? What phone number are you calling from? Somebody's after me. Please. Are you in Suffolk County or Nassau County? I'm in Long Island. Where on Long Island are you? No. 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 No, stop, no. Where in Long Island are you? In Suffolk County? Nassau County? Huh? Hello? Hi. Why you call me by my name? Why? Can you on the line? Stop. Please. Stop it, please. Please stop. Please. Can you shut the door? Please. 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 No, please. Please. Why? Please stop. No, stop it, please. Hello? Hello? Please. What's the problem? What's the matter? What happened? Hello? Please, get me out of here, please. Hello? You're being sarcastic about this. You're part of this all along.
Shannan then ran from Brewer's house at 8 the fairway to Gus Coletti's house at 17 the fairway, a distance of 0.2 of a mile. Shannan interacts with Coletti. He invites her inside his home.
Shannan. Hello? Hello?
Don't keep sorry. What are you doing?
She then runs from Coletti's home, prompting Coletti to call 911. After Coletti's call, Shannan then runs another 0.2 of a mile to another home at 43 the Bayou, prompting a third 911 call made at 5:30 a.m. by Barbara Brennan.
Something please say something to location of emergency.
Yes, this Lavelle Beach in the association. There's a young girl about 14 years old running around here screaming, and there's some guy trying to follow her.
What's the address here?
I'm at 17 the fairway.
All right, you have a description of the girl and the boy?
Pardon me?
You have a description of the girl and the boy?
The girl is about 14 years old, got blonde hair, very small. The boy, I can't tell, he was into like a Suburban.
What color?
Black.
Did you happen to get a plate number or anything?
No, I didn't.
Okay, telephone number your phone.
For,
Are they still on the server?
they just went past the gatehouse where the entrance is.
What's the name of the company?
It's a Oak Beach Association.
Okay.
Hired by Robert Moses.
All right, we got somebody from there.
I'll be watching.
Okay.
No, I don't. I'm not letting her in.
She's banging on your door now?
Yes.
Did you feel what kind of danger?
No.
Oh.
And we live in a gated community.
What's your name then?
I'm Barbara Brennan,
What's there a name for that community?
Oak Beach Association,
Oh, Beach Association.
and I have an elderly mother here.
All right, I'll get Claudia right over there, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
This is drone footage and footage shot from the ground shown in marshland. It was taken at the same time of year and time of day as when Shannan went missing. These reeds can grow over 12 feet tall. They can disorient someone inside them, causing them to lose a sense of direction. One cannot tell where the highway is or where the bay is. The reeds and brush can become impenetrable in places. There's a trench running east and west through the marshland. This was created to allow mosquito control. It is believed that Shannan followed this trench. Personal belongings of hers were found just north of the trench. Shannan's remains were found north of the trench, about 158 feet south of Ocean Parkway, approximately 3/4 of a mile from where she was last seen. There has been information received during the course of this investigation that other people might be involved in this incident. They have all been investigated, and there is no reason to believe at this time that anyone else is involved in this tragic series of events.
So may I ask, does anybody have any immediate responses of their own? You can write them in the comments section down below. Longer responses and longer pieces of material that you would like to share with this program can be sent to BlackBoxOnlineRadio@AOL.com. When I was listening to the press conference that they had where they released these calls, I turned the volume down because I was expecting to hear a bunch of screaming and shouting, but then I found I was quite surprised when they began playing the 911 call of Shannan Gilbert in the home of Joe Brewer, the client that she went to see, because Shannan sounds not exactly calm, and she just sounds blank, I think, when she is first talking to the 911 dispatcher, and absolutely she seems disoriented. At some times she seems to be afraid of her driver Michael Pack. At other times she's asking him questions of to reassure her, for lack of a better term. But if anything, and this might be an unpopular opinion, it seems that Joe Brewer is not doing anything overly malicious to Shannan, or at the very least, on the 911 call, he's trying to distance himself, and she's saying, "Can you close the door?" Meaning that she wants to stay, or she thinks that there's some type of outside intruder, and Joe Brewer is saying, "No, I want you to get out." He's going to go upstairs, and then he wants Michael Pack to take Shannan Gilbert out of his home because of her behavior. And in this segments that they did after playing this during the press conference, they did discuss these possibilities about what could be causing Shannan Gilbert's behavior. Number one, the authorities absolutely reject any type of Long Island serial killer connection. They believe that Shannan was having a manic episode, that Shannan Gilbert had bipolar disorder, and that sometimes she self-medicated with drugs and alcohol, particularly marijuana and ecstasy. Michael Pack also talked about this during the deposition that he gave for the police, and the transcript of that is available online as well. So, after Shannan is coming out of that blank state, she then begins to think that there is some type of orchestration going on, that there's some type of conspiracy against her. And this is something that people had pulled out of the transcripts years ago. They said that not only is there a Long Island serial killer, there's more than one Long Island serial killer, because she says that they are trying to come after me. Or at one point it seems like she thinks that Michael Pack and Joe Brewer are in cahoots with either someone or each other, or that those two are trying to do something bad to her. But then she also thinks that there's some outside force that is outside of the house that is going to do something bad to her. So it really isn't very clear. And from the 911 audio, we don't quite know who exactly Shannan thinks is trying to well, kill her, for lack of a better term. I mean, that's more or less what Shannan stated in the video. But you also could hear that Shannan is going up and down the streets. She's knocking on people's doors. She is trying to alert people of what's going on. And she appears to have really heightened her frantic behavior at that point, and that's where the screams come in, and that's when the sounds of someone who is acting like she is in danger are coming about. But what do you think about the explanation that has been provided that this was not the Long Island serial killer, that Shannan Gilbert was just a woman who was working as an escort and met a very tragic but accidental death nonetheless? That and the only reason I mentioned that she was an escort was because she was driven to this house on Long Island in the Oak Beach community to see a client, and then she had some type of manic episode or some type of mental problem took shape with Shannan, and she ran away. And the authorities went on to say at the press conference that, number one, they believe that she passed away because she had succumbed to the elements. And then someone asked two valuable questions. Number one, was there any evidence of Shannan Gilbert drowning? And they said no, because they have ruled it to be undetermined, that they could not determine the cause of death. And later on in the press conference, they say that the Gilbert family had hired their own coroner or medical examiner, who said that there could have been a possibility that Shannan was strangled, but the authorities do not support that conclusion. Their medical examiner, that works for and with law enforcement, says that it's just undetermined. They can't say that she drowned. They can't say that she was strangled. They can't say that there's homicide. They can't say that there was anything to do with the elements, but they do believe that she simply spent too long in the marsh and succumbed to the elements. And I had one question about that, like how would Shannan pass away? Because this is in the month of May, and just simply being in the marsh in May wouldn't allow you to freeze to death. And you saw, though, in the video that there is actually a lot of water in the marsh. That could definitely lead to something such as drowning. And we have to remember that Shannan was disoriented. She doesn't seem to know everything about what's going on, and she may have passed away because of just that. When someone is disoriented around a water source, the risk of drowning is so much greater. It's so much higher. But you heard some of the explanations in that little clip there. But at the end of the press conference, they also had the question about what makes Shannan Gilbert's death different than that of the other Long Island serial killer victims. And the explanations provided were rather interesting. Number one is that she was found south of the Parkway, which I expect is the Ocean Parkway, and all the other victims were found north of the Ocean Parkway. The second was she had the ability to call 911, and there are no recorded phone calls of any of the other Long Island serial killer victims calling 911. The second one was that she went to see the client with a driver, and to the best of their knowledge, none of the other victims went to see a driver. That is one that I have to take exception with, because there are so many Long Island serial killer victims that are unidentified to this day, and they're even unconfirmed victims. How about the Fire Island Jane Doe, Peaches Jane Doe, Cherry's Jane Doe? How on earth would they know that those women didn't go see someone with a driver? I mean, it would definitely make sense if they did not have a driver and they were in a vulnerable place and somebody ended their life because no one was waiting for them. Sure, I follow that reasoning, but how do they know with certainty if they don't even know the woman's name? And it's important to remember that Peaches Jane Doe was with her daughter at the time, who was also murdered, and she has since been known as Baby Doe. As far as making 911 calls, I mean, if they don't have any evidence of that, they don't have any evidence of that. I guess that one is something that I can accept a little bit more easily. But early on in my learnings about the Long Island serial killer, for lack of a better term, I really began to think that Shannan Gilbert was not killed by the Lisk, but rather that this was an accidental death for all of the reasons stated, but also because it seemed to be very clear that the problem wasn't that someone was actually trying to kill her. It seemed, based on the testimonies of Joe Brewer and Michael Pack, that Shannan was behaving because of some issue in her own mind. And I think that the 911 calls share a little bit of info about that. I think it shows that she was experiencing some type of fear, but we don't know if the threat was real or not. I did not hear a single convincing thing that suggested that there was any real threat in those 911 calls talking about someone is trying to kill her. I mean, what I heard was two guys were just trying to calm her down. That's what I heard on the call, and you can dispute that with me in the comment section if you want. And I have to reinforce that because Joe Brewer is all like, I'm not going to close the door. I want you to leave. I want you to go with your driver. I don't think that there's any grand conspiracy there. I think that that is just some guy, he wanted to see an escort. And it's quite possible that Joe Brewer made a comment about Shannan's appearance, that he didn't like something about her, and that's what triggered the emotional outburst. And if Shannan was experiencing some type of medical issue or drug-induced issue, as we said, Shannan was a known drug user, and she would also self-medicate to deal with the effects of her bipolar disorder by using marijuana and ecstasy. That all could have just triggered some type of reaction, and she's having some type of breakdown, and she calls 911. She thinks someone's trying to kill her. I mean, Joe Brewer does not seem like he is the one who's trying to inflict any harm on Shannan. He is just saying, I want her out of my house. Michael Pack was seen following her, and again, I don't think that there's anything suspicious there. A lot of people have suspected Michael Pack in the past. They say maybe this guy is the driver for a snuff ring, that he's driving these women to locations and they're being murdered. Again, I think that that is a lot of guesswork. I don't know how anyone would be able to confirm that. But also, at the end of the press conference, somebody asked a question about another Long Island serial killer suspect, and that was Dr. Peter Hackett. And the authorities seemed to do themselves absolutely no favors at all. They just denied any involvement from Peter Hackett, and they ended the press conference. And I think they wanted to shut down any type of rabbit hole of questions about suspects. I mean, what do you think about James Bissett as a suspect? What do you think about John Biltroff as a suspect? They just wanted to shut things down, but they did themselves no favors at all by just be like, oh, well, he has no real involvement in the case. Would you know, that's that's all the time we have for. That's all, folks. And then they just walk out of there. But as far as Dr. Peter Hackett's involvement, if I understand correctly, and this is all stuff that was known for years, the reason why they don't believe that Peter Hackett was the Long Island serial killer was he had a known history of lying, he had a known history of trying to insert himself into situations for attention, and they said the only real connection that he has to this case is that he made a phone call to Shannan Gilbert's mother, Murray Gilbert. I believe that's actually 2 days after, though. I mean, don't quote me on that. I'm going to double check the timeline later on. Should have done that first, come to think. But he made a phone call to Shannan Gilbert's mother, Murray Gilbert, and they said that's the only connection he has to this case. They've looked into Joe Brewer, they've looked into Michael Pack, they've looked into Peter Hackett, and they don't think that there's any Long Island serial killer connection. At this time, I would like to turn it over to you guys, and I would like to know, what do you think about the 911 calls? Does it suggest that Shannan is being attacked by either Michael Pack or Joe Brewer? Do you hear anything suspicious or guilt-stricken on their part? Anything that would indicate guilty behavior on their part from either Michael Pack, the driver, or Joe Brewer, the man who was Shannan's client? And what do you think about any of the discussions put forward in this episode? And as previously stated, anybody can write the show at BlackBoxOnlineRadio@AOL.com. You can also get me on Facebook. My personal Facebook is in the description box. And there is always Instagram, BlackBoxKnit88. And I will see you over there for the bonus podcast. And also, you can tune in every Wednesday for a segment on the Long Island serial killer here on Black Box Online Radio. Until next time.